Having slain the Red Hood Cobra, our intrepid band of professional adventurers, trudged back to the Adventurers Guild, loaded down with serpent fangs, scales, and an elaborate cover story rehearsed outside the building, because nothing says trustworthy like a coordinated narrative hammered out in a back alley. The moment we stepped through the doors, Nokopara materialized beside us as if conjured from a nightmare. His horse-like features twisted into a smirk that said, "I know exactly what you've been up to, and I'm going to enjoy this." Jalil stammered that yes, we'd found the Cobra already weakened. The Super Blazers had heroically softened it up before dying, briefly surprising even Nokopara, who hadn't heard Blaze was gone. But he recovered quickly. Grief was not his specialty. The real trouble arrived when he slid his arm around my shoulders in a weirdly intimate fashion and whispered, "How exactly were you hunting down pets outside the city?" Then he grabbed Jalil. "Did that Red Hood Cobra just happen to be inside the city too?" The jig was thoroughly up. Options, blame Jalil, might work, but destroying my friendship with Ruijerd was the cost, since betraying comrades is conduct unbefitting of a warrior. Kill Nokopara. Senseless. I wasn't ready to murder my way through problems, or the so what defense, since I'd reviewed the guild regulations and found no explicit rule against what we'd been doing. We helped out with P. Hunter's job, and P. Hunter helped out with ours. Is that such a big deal? Nokopara explained that if everyone started swapping jobs, the whole system would collapse, people buying and selling tasks like commodities, advancing in rank without lifting a finger. He wasn't wrong. Then he grabbed me by the robe and lifted me off the floor. "If you care about your status as an adventurer, you best start bringing me 2 iron coins per month." An actual blackmailer. Almost refreshing, a clean-cut villain with transparent motives after months of grey areas. I couldn't report him. That would expose my own rule-breaking. So I signalled Ruijerd and Eris to stand down, played the flustered child to perfection, and asked if Jalil and I could turn in our jobs first. Nokopara, apparently not as smart as he looked, agreed. At the counter, I collected our rewards and had P. Hunters dissolved with Viskel officially added to Dead End. Then I turned back to Nokopara. "You do have some sort of proof that we broke the rules, right?" What followed was a guided tour of every house where we'd ever done a job. First stop, a cranky old woman with an eagle-beak nose who greeted Viskel warmly, said her bug infestation had been cleared out just fine, and declared, "So long as you do the job quick and proper, I couldn't care less if you're the real Dead End." Visquel produced her adventurer card, which now read, "Party Dead End," because P. Hunters no longer existed. What the damn it? Are you kidding me? Client after client, dozens of them, all convinced that Jalil and Viskel had been Dead End members all along. Nokopara's face travelled from red to blue over the most satisfying afternoon of my life. There was even a sweet moment near the very end. Our first ever client, a small girl, yelped with joy and hugged Ruijerd's leg. "I'm sorry, Nokopara, but I don't think we can pay you if you can't produce any proof." But fate had one more stop, the Wolfclaw Inn, where we were staying. 2 people emerged from the front door. 15 separate alarm bells went off in my head simultaneously. Kurt and the surviving members of the Tokurabu village toughs, the people we'd rescued from the petrified forest. "You remember who saved you in the petrified forest? That was Dead End, right?" Nokopara asked casually. I shook my head frantically at Kurt, projecting every ounce of "please stop talking" through sheer eye contact. Kurt nodded decisively. "Of course it was. I've never seen anyone as strong as these guys before." He then delivered, with enormous energy and multiple sound effects, a complete account of our battle, including the rank of the job and the precise impossibility of a D-rank party having taken it. Game over. Kill Nokopara. His allies might scatter and report us anyway. Blame Jalil. Costs me Ruijerd forever. Pay the money. He'd escalate and eventually set his eyes on Eris, forcing my hand anyway from a weaker position. I was ready to flood the city with a Saint Tier spell and run in the confusion. I was gathering magical energy in my hands when Nokopara's face went completely white. He wasn't looking at me. I turned around. Ruijerd was standing there, soaking wet. A water jug lay on the ground beside him. His emerald green hair shone in the sunlight, every trace of blue dye washed out. He'd undone his headband, exposing the red jewel on his forehead. "He's a supered," Nokopara fell backward onto his bottom. I am Ruijerd Super Dia, also known as Dead End. It appears my identity's been exposed. I suppose I'll have to kill you all now. Stiff, unnatural monotone. The man was genuinely not cut out to be an actor, but the rage in his eyes was entirely real. Every person on the street screamed and scattered. Jalil betrayed us immediately. They threatened me. I didn't know anything. He ran, dragging Viskel with him. Kurt's legs gave out. The same Kurt who 3 minutes ago had been describing Ruijerd as a superhero. I hadn't understood, viscerally, until that moment. This wasn't a PR problem. This was generations of primal fear baked so deep into the culture that watching a man wash his hair triggered a mass panic. What had my little rehabilitation plan been planning to accomplish? What a joke. Ruijerd grabbed Nokopara by the neck and lifted him. Ruijerd, don't kill him. Nokopara begged with increasing incoherence, his estimated number of hungry children rising from 3 to 7 in real time. Ruijerd let him go. Parting gift, one shallow cut across Nokopara's cheek. Something wet spread across the front of his pants. When Ruijerd dropped him, he hit the ground with a sound that will stay with me always. Ruijerd took the blame for everything and fled into the wilderness. By the time the guardsmen arrived, the narrative was set. Vague evil scheme, us as pawns. I insisted he'd done nothing wrong. They looked at me with the patient pity of adults humoring a traumatized child. I was so angry I could have punched the entire city. We packed up and left the Wolfclaw Inn. Kurt stopped us. Why are you guys traveling with that monster? I snapped, caught myself, apologized, and asked him to spread the word that Ruijerd was a good person. He didn't sound convinced, but he seemed earnest. I left a message at the guild for Jalil and Viskel. Sorry it came to this, but thanks for all your help. You've got his gratitude as well. Then I spent 10 iron coins, half our money, on a 6-legged lizard-like reptile with charmingly bulgy eyes. Our transport across the demon continent. Past the gate, past soldiers buzzing with excitement about Dead End having been in their city. That man was in the city for nearly 2 months, and he didn't cause any trouble at all. They looked at me like I'd grown a second head. I clicked my tongue and walked out. I sent a magic firework into the sky once the city was out of sight. Ruijerd didn't appear. Eris shouted his name at impressive volume. Pax coyotes appeared instead. I took out my frustration on them. Shortly after, Ruijerd appeared, looking guilty. Why didn't you show up when we called for you? That was not what I'd meant to say, but it was what came out. I'm sorry, he said. I told him that was backwards. He waved it off. He said he'd suspected my goals to be immoral until today. But watching me prepare to flood an entire city to protect my people, he understood. You fight to protect something, Rudeus, and that makes you a warrior. I had to fight back tears. I did not deserve that. He offered to let me drop the goal of improving his reputation. Focus on getting Eris home. He'd protect us regardless. I can't do that, Ruijerd. I'll fix your reputation, no matter what. I'd been labelled once, in my first life, and spent decades alone. I wasn't Roxy. I'd have to keep failing and crawling forward, but I wasn't stopping. Haven't you learned your lesson? Am I really so untrustworthy? I do trust you. That's why I want to help you reach your goal. You're certainly a stubborn one. You're one to talk, Ruijerd. All right then. Let's do what we can, I suppose. In that moment, for the first time, I felt I'd genuinely earned his trust. The next morning, Ruijerd was bald, everything including his eyebrows. Combined with his scar, he looked like a Yakuza enforcer. His explanation: his hair frightened people, so he dealt with it. The calm matter-of-factness with which he described shaving off the most identifiable feature of his entire species was something of an understatement. Eris? You think I should do that too? Don't you dare. I like your hair the way it is, Rudeus. I used Eris as a convenient excuse not to shave my head. Go on, judge me. 3 days out of Rikarisu, I addressed the food situation. Great tortoise meat, the demon continent's staple protein, was cheap, plentiful, and roughly as appetizing as boiled rubber. Earth Magic produced a clay pot, a stove, and unlimited Grey Rat family artisanal water. The pressure cooker prototype very nearly exploded. The resulting stew made the meat tender and nasty, instead of tough and nasty. An improvement, technically. Then it dawned on me that the Migard village meat had tasted much better, and why. Those half-dead plants weren't failed crops, they were herbs. I'd been misled by Roxy, calling them bitter and unpleasant. You don't eat them directly, Master. You use them to cook with. Mental note: buy spices. Actually, this was exactly the kind of decision I shouldn't be making alone. Gather round, everyone. I'd like to call a group meeting. The first dead-end team meeting convened around a campfire. I clapped to open proceedings. Ruijerd asked why we were clapping. I explained it was an occasion worth commemorating. As we all know, I recently screwed up big time. No, that wasn't your. Quiet, please. I did my best impression of a high-strung woman in triangular glasses. Ruijerd, if you want to respond, raise your hand after the current speaker finishes. Understood. Contributing failures: lax information gathering, excessive focus on fast money, overconfidence. Systematic solution: report, communicate, consult, ReCoCo for short. Sounds almost French. The principles: bring troubles to the group instead of keeping them to yourself. Speak up when you notice something. Report when things go wrong or right. Eris raised her hand. If I was going to make the final decision anyway, why not just decide immediately? There's a limit to how much I can think through all by myself. But I'm never going to have any ideas you couldn't think up, Rudeus. Even if that's true, you may say something that gets me thinking in a different way. Travel plan: south to Windport, then boats to the Millis continent, across to the western coast, and a boat to the central continent's eastern seaboard. The alternate route through the Divine Continent, enclosed by sheer rock walls, 1 in 20 travelers surviving it, made 6 months of walking seem positively appealing. No teleportation circles either. Their use had been forbidden after the Second Great Human-Demon War. Pattern in each city: guild tasks, build reputation, save money, move on. Meeting adjourned. We made it to the next city without anyone identifying Ruijerd as a superd. Bald, eyebrowless, scarred, improper adventurer gear. Apparently that just reads as extremely intimidating person. On the Demon Continent. The guards greeted us warmly. Ruijerd mentioned quietly, with a small smile, that he'd never experienced that before. Announcing ourselves as Dead End at the guild prompted laughter. The infamous name was proving an excellent icebreaker. The second team meeting was called by Eris, who announced with a completely straight face that Rudeus had been sniffing her underwear during laundry. I was unanimously banned from touching Eris's panties ever again. We therefore taught Eris to do her own laundry. Sometime later, I caught her furtively sniffing mine and chose, in the interest of everyone's dignity, not to raise it. Months passed. At some point, Eris decided she wanted to learn the demon god tongue, driven, I suspect, by sheer irritation at being the only person in every room who had no idea what was being said about her. Without Roxy's dictionary, I couldn't put together a proper curriculum, but she had Ruijerd and me to learn from, and she applied herself with the same dogged intensity she brought to hitting things. My end name is Eris Boreas Greyrat, she managed one afternoon, looking at me like she'd just solved a theorem. I praised her in the Yamamoto Isoroku tradition. Show them, tell them, have them do it, and then praise them. Otherwise, people won't do anything, and may have gone slightly overboard. She asked if I was making fun of her. I was not, mostly. Ruijerd, meanwhile, was training her in combat via his preferred pedagogical method, exchanging blows until she figured out what she was doing wrong. I tried joining these sessions and consistently ended up on the ground with his spear at my throat. Eris, on the other hand, was a prodigy, probably already slightly better than Paul. I challenged Ruijerd to a private duel, while Eris ran an errand, deploying every close-range tactic I'd developed. He defeated me completely. Not bad at all. You're already a well-rounded, powerful magician. However, your strategic approach was poor. There's no need for you to try and beat me in close combat. He suggested studying how Perugius handled it, a front wormgate that drained magical power from enemies, and a rear wormgate that fed it back to him, draining an ordinary warrior unconscious in under 5 minutes. Wow, that's one underhanded way to win a fight. Ruijerd did not share this assessment. 5 months passed, then 6. On the road south, warriors began approaching to challenge Ruijerd, not bounty hunters, but combat seekers drawn to the continent specifically for its strong fighters. Before the first duel, I set ground rules. Friendly match only, no killing. Ruijerd's name revealed only afterward, no grudges either way. The challenger introduced himself with considerable ceremony. "My name is Rodriguez. I am the third student of Olba the Peacock Blade, pupil of the great North god Kalman." He cheerfully agreed to the terms. Ruijerd won with calm, unhurried efficiency, shutting down everything Rodriguez tried until the man was simply cornered, having never once been in real danger. "What is your name, if I may ask?" "Ruijerd Superdia. People also call me Dead End." Astonishment, not terror, which was, by this point, almost novel. 4 centuries had stripped away all specific knowledge of the Superd, leaving only a hair-color prejudice, and Ruijerd had no hair. For these warriors, he wasn't a monster to flee, but a legendary figure to seek out. Several spent entire days listening to his accounts of the Laplace War, particularly the part where he broke through a ring of 1,000 soldiers, went underground, and eventually got his revenge. More than a few macho tears were shed. I started contemplating writing the whole thing down. War without justice, mortal combat on the demon continent, and filed it away for later. The 8th and 9th months came and went. Eris started fights when people insulted us, never drawing her sword, but her fists were more than sufficient. Ruijerd's identity was exposed numerous times, and we were driven out of several cities, though never with the chaos of Ricarisu. Once, a soldier who'd gotten to know us actually sought Ruijerd out to apologize on behalf of the frightened ones. The DR campaign, such as it was working, slowly, unevenly, but working. I kept attempting to spy on Eris bathing. Ruijerd kept dragging me off by the scruff of my neck. Eris was violent. Ruijerd was a Superd. I was a pervert. We'd all been this way since birth. I stopped stressing. A screw-up wasn't the end of the world. About a year after leaving Ricarisu, a dozen cities, several hundred completed guild tasks, and 1 A-rank promotion later, we reached Windport, the southernmost city on the demon continent. The 3 of us were A-ranked adventurers. The guards at the gate greeted Ruijerd without flinching. Extra chapter: The Princess of Asura and the Angel. The Silver Palace in Ars, the world's largest, most beautiful castle, was home to a vicious, unrelenting power struggle that belied every inch of its immaculate white walls. The Fittoa Displacement Incident was about to change that world irrevocably. Within the palace grounds lay several splendid gardens. The Rose Garden with red flowers, the Peony Garden with black flowers, the Hydrangea Garden with blue flowers, and the Lily Garden, white flowers only, the particular favorite of Princess Ariel Anamoy Asura. The second princess, her mother's legendary beauty, her father's extraordinary voice, charisma so overpowering the capital had already declared her history's most beautiful princess before she was of age. Once every 3 days, she took tea there with her 2 guardians, her beauty such that no one dared approach or share her table. Her guardian knight, Luke Notos Greyrat, second son of one of the kingdom's 4 great provincial noble houses, and bearing a surname that may ring a bell to anyone familiar with a certain family from the Fittoa region, though whether the connection is more than nominal is a question neither Luke nor anyone in this garden is currently asking. Intermediate rank in the sword god style, devastatingly handsome, silver-tongued, every girl in the palace knew his name. Her guardian mage, Derrick Redbat, third son of mid-rank nobility, advanced rank magic from the Asura Institute of Magic, mild and amiable, and crucially, the only one of the 3 who was not a reprobate. Because on the day we joined them, Ariel and Luke were discussing the nipples of a maid Luke had recently bedded. Ariel, the most beautiful princess in history, beloved by the common folk, worshipped from a respectful distance by every noble in the capital, was bisexual, a sadist, and was currently considering smuggling the girl to her bedchamber for a more thorough investigation. Luke had already moved on. Her breasts weren't quite large enough. Behind the spotless public reputations, both lived thoroughly indulgent lives, utterly indifferent to the political intrigue consuming everyone around them. The irony being, of course, that Ariel's carefully cultivated mystique, the occasional public appearance, the breathtaking distant beauty, the untouchable perfection, was itself doing more political work than she realized. This was not unusual for Asura nobility in a kingdom 400 years old that had never known war or famine. Derrick, from more provincial stock, suggested periodically that they exercise discretion. Ariel replied that she was the second princess, Her brothers were fighting ruthlessly for the throne, and the sensible thing was to drink tea and stay out of it entirely. If you chose to fight, Lady Ariel, I'd happily lay down my life to protect you. Would you please stop saying such alarming things? I know what you really think of Luke and me. You'd probably like to get me caught up in a power struggle, just so you can abandon me when the fighting starts. Derrick went rigid with wounded fury and left the garden. Behind him, Ariel and Luke resumed their discussion. He wasn't abandoning his post. He was going to the bathroom. Alone in the lavatory, he replayed the conversation with grinding frustration. Ariel's brothers would be ordinary, respectable kings. Not good enough. Asura was stagnating while the King Dragon realm advanced technologically, and the magic nations pushed ahead in arcane research. Derrick believed Ariel could change everything. He'd never once heard anyone speak badly of her. He would gladly die for her. It was painful when she dismissed that as embarrassing. Then he heard voices from behind the lavatory wall. Sir Grabble views Lady Ariel as a threat, then? That's right. Her popularity with the common folk is remarkable. He's quite upset that she's better known than he is, even though she barely shows herself in public. When you can't win a head-on fight, you've got to skulk around in the shadows instead. I've already made certain arrangements. First, Prince Grabble's faction. They'd already acted. He couldn't kill them. That would trigger open warfare from a faction Ariel had no motivation to fight. He had to warn her. He moved fast back toward the lily garden. He never made it. The moment Derrick stepped back into the garden, his jaw dropped. At the back of the lily garden, the section called the hibiscus forest, an enormous beast stood on 2 legs. A Terminator Boar. By themselves D-ranked, but they travelled with assault dogs that raised their threat to C, or even B, and were among the kingdom's most infamous monsters. One accompanied by 20 assault dogs had once killed every soul in a small Asuran village. Derrick knew exactly what it was. He had no idea how it had gotten here. What he had no way of knowing, the Fittoa Displacement Incident had teleported it here only moments ago. Ariel was still at her table, chatting with Luke. Neither had noticed the beast staring directly at them with a predator's calculating eyes. Derrick broke into a run, started an incantation, realized the boar was already moving, and he couldn't finish in time. He abandoned the spell and shouted, "Run, Lady Ariel!" Ariel rose just in time to see the huge brown blur hurtling at her. She jumped. The boar smashed through several of the garden's trees, turned, and found Derrick between it and the princess. No time for magic, no useful options. He spread his arms wide. "Luke, I leave the rest to you." The Terminator Boar's fist sent him flying, all his ribs shattered, several vital organs crushed. He hurtled through the air and smashed into a wall 5 meters away, his spine breaking on impact. He didn't lose consciousness immediately. He knew he was dying, could smell it. No fear, it had happened too fast. He watched Luke draw his sword and charge. Then he moved just his eyes to find Ariel. She was rushing toward him. Shock and confusion, not terror. "Derrick! Oh, this can't be happening. We've got to get a healer here at once." Leave me. You have to run away." "Don't try to speak. Someone help." "This is pointless, Lady Ariel. I'm well past saving." No, don't be ridiculous. You've got to hang in there, Derrick." She was on the verge of tears. He'd been convinced she hated having him around. Perhaps he'd been wrong. One last small impulse of mischief. "Well, Princess, I didn't abandon you. Now did I?" She jerked back, startled. After a moment, she began looking at him in a way she had never looked at him before. "Derrick, Lady Ariel, this is my last request. Please, I beg you, take the throne and make Asura into a better country." A broken rib pierced his lung. He coughed up blood. Ariel watched in silence for a moment. Then she nodded, turned around and found the boar before her. Luke had been knocked aside and lay on the ground, looking at her with pure despair. "I don't know where you came from or why, but you stand before the future Queen of Asura. I'm not going to die today. Begone." The Terminator Boar snuffled softly. Words meant nothing to it. It took one step forward, then another. From the ground, Derrick prayed. He was a follower of the Millis Church. He knew St. Millis couldn't grant a miracle every time you needed one, but he couldn't help it. "Please, God, please help us. You can take my life, but help Princess Ariel. This world still has need of her." The beast's fist rose into the air. Then the prayer was answered. With an ear-splitting shriek, an angel tumbled from the heavens, white-haired, wearing rather shoddy clothes, falling in a thoroughly undignified fashion.
Ah! Ah!
With a half-crazed war cry, she stretched both hands toward the massive boar and blew the upper half of its body apart. Thank you, God. Thank you so much. Witnessing this, Derrick shed one final tear. Please, watch over Lady Ariel. And with his heart full of peace, the guardian mage breathed his last. The Fittoa Displacement Incident cost one young magician his life and gave Ariel Anemoyasura a new and entirely different purpose. What path did she follow in the aftermath? How did those events change Luke Greyrat? And what became of the angel that fell from the heavens? These are tales for another time.